Okay, so if to change the axis point or the pivot point, pivot point, whatever it is, we use um, we'll use another tab here, the hierarchy tab. That's the third one, this one here. We click on it, this third one. The first option says affect pivot only. Because right now, if I click this guy to move, it will move my table profile. Good. So, but once you click on affect pivot only, you can see the pivot has now changed to this kind of arrows with arrows inside. So you can now move only the pivot and change the pivot position to a central point. You can get it. That you have the pivot at the exact center of the grid, just the way you wanted it. And once you are done, you can turn it off. Mm. Once you're done, you just turn it off. So what that does is it moves the pivot to the center, like the edge over the profile position. Yeah, move it by hand because you need to specify where the pivot is. Otherwise, when you click on this pivot only, this the y-axis, just make sure it's on 0 here in your coordinates. That's depending on which view you drew it. Right now, for me, this direction is on the y, so I just make sure y here is 0, zeroed out. Okay, so that it's exactly flush in that center. Okay, the z is not important because that just talks about the height from the origin, point of origin here. Or at least the x and y should be zeroed out so that it is flush in the center. And I can turn like a place where you can just type the coordinates. That's why I said type it now. Where you have the coordinates? This place here. Is it walking pivot or what? And then walking pivot. I think I said walking. Yeah, affect pivot only. Go to your pivot. Yeah, you already affect pivot only. So see your coordinates there now. Where? See them at your bottom there now. See them there now. Yeah. Click on the click in the box there and type the number. Number. No, don't touch anything there. You said to click the box. Right? This is the box. These are the boxes now. You're already on 0, 0. This is where your numbers are now. So type 0 there. So just 0. Yeah, just 0 that your x and your y. So it is flush. Leave the z now. The z will go down to your origin. Amir, hope you are not trying what I'm thinking you are trying. Okay. So after you do that, you can come back to your modify and make sure you turn off this guy first. Come back to your modify. The pivot, yeah, turn it off. Come back to your modifier list and choose lathe. Just type L to bring up all the effects that have L. Lathe is the first one. Just click on it. And then it creates the table. Let me see. Yeah, it has to be selected first. Mhm. No, no, click on the line. You didn't change the pivot. You didn't change the pivot. Rather, you just shifted the drawing. Yeah, you just shifted this guy. This guy is supposed to be,
Okay, put down.
let it be flush here, so that at least you can use. The reason why we are using this is so that why is your grid is upside down. Why is
I just need.
that? No, no, play. I'm not going to give you hyper disturbance.
My middle button after like it's not
Okay,
working. I
okay.
just
So use this guys. These are your tools here. So this.
how do you give? Oh, okay. I was trying to dig the part, the point.
Use your tool. Why is it not selected? I mean, this mouse button. Why is it touching? Is it because of the
Okay,
pen?
we use the pen.
Probably it's because of the pen. Yes. Thanks. Yeah. Give me a pen. This. This. Let us raise.
Sorry, sorry, sorry. I thought it.
So let's imagine that there's all your going once, right? So to move this pivot, you need to be here, affect the number. So you can zero out the x coordinate there and the y. So basically, my y is minus 96. I come in there and zero out this. So this numlock is not working.
Oh, I sorry.
Okay.
Well,
Right. So it's flush in that middle there. Okay, then we can turn this guy off now. Okay, come back here. So now in the modifier
so
list,
sorry, I have a question. The reason why you turned it off was because of
if you move it now, you move the whole thing. You are moving the pivot only, so you need to move only the pivot. So when you finish, you turn it off because you have finished doing what you needed. Now you now have your table. You know, okay, so generally those guys. So let me work on how you now correct that. Sonic, yeah, back to class. I said back to class. Amir, have you done yours? Why almost? So notice here, uh, I'm having this black shading, right? And that's because, first of all, my pivot point is centralized, which is good. But then this black is existing in 3ds Max to show errors in display. Black shows that the object is not facing the right direction, or the lines are not facing the right direction. So the first thing you need to do when you have this issue is, because you already have a central point here, figure out if any of the vertices you created along the profile is crossing that middle point. If it crosses the middle point, it will create those black lines. If it doesn't reach the middle point, it will create a hole. So now if I come into my line, this place here, you can see that this vertex is kind of crossing the line, the middle point. So this one is okay, but I can select it and make sure you can see it's 0.151. It's crossing just a little bit. So I can turn that to 0, just so it is flush with that point. Then I do the same thing here. I select that and zero it out as well. So once I have those two and I come, you see I now have more control on my points. Okay, are we good?
So why always do that?
Yeah, everything, so that they are lined up with the middle of the point, because now this is my uh, pivot that we adjusted here. If I do affect pivot only, that pivot point, it has to be zeroed out so that the object works perfectly. Okay. If it's not zeroed out, it means that wherever the subject or the object is being designed from, it will imagine that that place is the um, is the center of your object. Okay. So I'm having a little bit of some trouble somewhere. So, where is that trouble coming from? Coming from probably one of these guys. So the thing about all these kinds of design when we are doing it is, it's left to your design creativeness to design an object that will have no errors at the bottom or the top. Because once you start seeing, like I said, black shades, it means there's a little bit of an error there. So now I've removed the points. So that's why we don't have those black anywhere else again. Once you have black in your model, it means error. And if you apply textures, you actually act very weird on the object. So like I said, because the points are on the where the pivot point is closed. If you remove the points, they create a hole in the object. Okay, so this is what the lathe does. And then from the lathe modifier, as you can see, this guy is not really round, it's not smooth. And that's because of the amount of segments it has. So what the lathe is doing is revolving that profile around, but it's creating, that's around 360 degrees. You can reduce the 360 degrees to see what is actually happening. So it's just taking that profile around.
How do you make it red? Like
I didn't make it red, that's the layer.
layer.
That's the layer color. Anytime you
Mine
draw
is black.
from here, no, it can't be black. If it's black, like I said, black is,
Mine is showing some.
that's what I said. If you see black, as in black anywhere, it means there's an error in your vertices. So
My entire table is black.
exactly, so that means you have an error in your vertices. Because layers don't come out as black. They come out with very nice fancy colors. I think mine is supposed to be very light shade of blue. Yeah. So just like I said, identify the vertices and correct them. So
It's a fancy. It looks black, right?
what?
It looks black. It is black.
It
But
doesn't
then
look like
some
this.
parts is green.
That's why I said it's still an error.
Mm.
So we need to correct that error in coming. Need to how like the marker is affecting me. So it's black because there's an error. So you find out the center of this point where were they and what is their point. Like see this is minus 53 now. This particular point you can see it's no longer black. Hmm? So correcting your vertices will help tell you when you are having issues in your drawing or not. Hmm? That's what I'm teaching now. So that's why I said if you see, correct it. That means do it yourself. I'm not doing for you. If you don't attempt to do it, you won't be able to correct it at any time. So you have to learn to attempt to do it. So figure out from here which of the vertices connecting here is not lapping or is overlapping in the image. So like this one now, we try and move it back and see it's no more black. So it was going beyond the zero mark where you put the center of. That's why this guy was blackened. So you can see it's no longer black. Simple. So that is exactly what I'm saying. If you have that issue, correct it by adjusting the vertices. There's a hole there. No, it's a hole, it's just a hole. So select the vertices now.
Okay, it's right
Select
click, right?
vertex. No, left click. Normal left click. So if you're having an issue in a point, like this point now, if you go, so this is not the problem. This guy is a curve. It's like when you created this guy, this first point, you created a curve or something. Okay, so let's take this guy back to zero. Um, where is zero on the x, zero on the z, okay, zero on the z for that point. Let's see this guy, zero him on the z2. I'm just doing manual changes so that it goes wrong. So we now figure out what is causing this black guy. Let's check the top side. Um, let's check the top side here. So pop out this guy. Where is he? Removing him. Why is this guy not moving? Why is this not in there? Is it anytime soon? So it's not this guy that's causing it. Something else is causing it. Coming in. So we need to, so I don't make mistake, I will make the home. How we doing it? Right. So, yes, I now know what's possible. It's an overcross. Um, it is an overcross, this guy. I think they're more than 1 point. Yeah, more than 1 point less.
So my line
They are overcrossing themselves. So something is crossing that one. So you can turn this guy up. So that point.
okay, this is more than
No, there's in this point. Okay, it looks like there's something wrong with that point.
zero.
Let me see. I'm erasing. This imagination that you are doing, imaginative learning. I mean, you're always saying that. Come to the front. I don't trust you. Come and stay here. So, like I said, the essence of these trainings, that as I am doing them, sometimes I purposely make a mistake so that you see an error that I'm trying to correct. And then I tell you, when you face a mistake like this, do this kind of thing. So it's on purpose that you have to learn that thing, all those error issues now. We talked about drawing something. I said, if you see black, correct it, doing it this way. When you see black, your first option is not to call me, is to correct it. Then you call me after you tried correcting and I didn't correct. All right. So now, like I said, this guy is not very smooth because by default, it doesn't create many segments. So if you want it to be smoother, you increase the amount of segments you have here and it gets smoother. Okay. But when we're doing modeling, basically, it's not very important that your blockouts should be smooth. We have smoothing tools. They are tools, modifiers that we use to smooth out the object because I might be making this table and I make it have this amount of segments, maybe so even less than what was there before, something like 12. And then I apply that subdivision object or that smoothing object to make it smooth. That will make me spend less time rendering. Or generally, if I have to modify the object later on, because it's not very smooth, it's easy for me to pick out points and adjust them. But when it's too smooth, it means it has a lot of subdivisions. Subdivisions that is like all these small cuts here. It's harder when they are tiny, when they are smaller. It's easier when they are larger. So when we are modeling, it's good to start out with a block model that is not very detailed until you have finished all the perfectionism you want to do on the model. You can now re-smooth it later. So that's the best way to work. If you try to smooth out your object from the initial point, when you have to modify that object, it could take you hours or days because there will be too many things to do. But the fewer the points, the better the modification practice. So like I said, I can increase this, since I'm not going to remodify this, I can increase the segment just so you see that it can be smooth. And then I've created a table. So when I move the table away, you can see it moves with the line because the lathe is affecting the line. If I don't want it again, I can turn off the lathe here and I just have my line again. All right. So and bring it back in. So that's one thing about pivots. Like take for instance, I want to draw a bottle. So let's say it's a bottle I'm trying to draw. Okay. I take that same line tool, pick up my line tool. Uh, I click, I click here, click curve. click curve, and maybe I just make some uh, general curves like this, something like this, um, and something like this. Let me just stop here. Okay, so now I want to adjust the shape. So I go into my line, the vertices, and I pick the parts I want to adjust them accordingly. So, and then and bring these ones inside again. Adjust this one a little bit more. Okay, so let's say this is the bottle I want to make. Now, notice I didn't close it up here. Oh, that's looking so sharp. A bit too sharp. Oh. Anyway,
So like on the board, right?
yes. So because it's not touching these points here, so let me say I come and change the pivot of this to move it. You can do this pivot thing before you start. You can do it afterwards. Doesn't matter. So I can come in here, add my lathe, okay, add it to the bottle, and I don't get worried because I know I can adjust this later. I can do the pivot thing and adjust this guy now. At the same time, I can do it from here, from my lathe axis. Click here and adjust it manually. That's from the lathe itself, the axis point. That's where the lathe is picking its movement from. I can do it from there. So I can as well zero out the um, position like this, and I have still have my bottle. So if I come in now and like you see, I'm seeing black. Hmm? What does that tell me? That there is something that is not uh, from my bottle now. There's something that is blocking the axis, right? So, so obviously you have to go to your vertices and start correcting those things. Abi? She? Yeah. So basically all those things are what will help you understand that okay, when I have an object, something once I see black, oh, there's an error in one of the vertices. So you start correcting it. So like now as I've zeroed out that bottom point there, the shading has come back. Okay. So before the shading came back, I needed to adjust this guy because here is not zeroed out. It's 0.071. That is, it has moved a little bit away from the central point. So just zero that point out and everything will be fine. So the bottom line in the design is whenever you see black, just know that there's an error. Don't bother trying to, uh, what is the word now? Don't bother trying to edit or say, oh, I want to correct this thing from here on. Once you see black, wahala there, it will affect your textures. Okay. So the benefits of also not having to come into that hierarchy with this axis here is moving the axis can give me different shapes of objects. Can give me different shapes of objects. So wherever the axis is, that's where the software is imagining the lathe is starting from. So the pivot point is very important. I hope that is clear. Amir and Alex, is that clear? No, I did. Doesn't look like it was very often. Thank you. Bleach, yes. So I just did something random. So let me see that it is clear. I want us to create bottles. I think in your files I gave you textures. So I want you to create a bottle, a good bottle. We have in, I think from semester one, sef, you people have, I gave you a texture of a bottle. There's a Coke bottle, there is a water bottle and stuff. So one of the tricks about 3D is you can actually trace out your shape by creating what we call an image plane or a reference plane. So basically, like creating a plane like this, probably on this view, okay? Creating a plane on this view because this is the view I want to draw the object from. I can just move the objects, the plane a little bit backwards. Then, like I taught in the last class, press M for Material Manager, creates a physical material node, and under the base color here, add a texture for a map, for a bitmap. Don't worry, I'll fix it. Is Michael's iron hand. Tell him that you've been gisting since. Okay, so let me, sorry. Uh, all right, let me bring in this. Looking for a bottle. Okay, so let's imagine I want to create this water bottle here, this one. So I bring this in into that map, and because my plane is selected, I just apply the material to the plane. Okay, I just apply the material to the plane. So, and I exit the mode. So basically, because I want to use it as my reference. So the bottle is here. I can change it from wireframe to default shading so I can see the bottle. Okay. And then I take my line tool and draw out the outline of this bottle. So let me just make something like this. Remember, this is like a pen tool in all these other softwares. So yeah, here it is. Let me not make it too detailed. Okay. Now I can hide my plane. I want to see it. So now this is my bottle shape. This is my bottle shape. Yeah, let me bring this guy here. So I can come into my modify vertex and zero these guys out. That's this edge because I know I will need them zeroed out. Zero it out. Okay. Then I can just add the lathe modifier first of all to the bottle. Check the axis, zero out the Y axis to create. the bottle. Hmm? This guy, you always have one wicked explanation for something. So, thank you. Doesn't look like a pistol anymore, does it? Bad belly. So, morning. So that is the bottle, and like I said, it's easy to make all those adjustments once you have your shape, and that's all. Now have a bottle. Okay. So you can use a reference and draw, or you just draw freely, like how you did here. And because I had zeroed out all the points, I already knew that there might be issues. I zeroed out the points before I drew it, so I didn't have any issues of black appearing. The reason why I left those blacks is because I know you will definitely have black if you are starting out. So when you draw, it's not like, I have control spoil. You should also learn how to correct those errors when you come across them. Okay, and it's very simple. Attack when you see an error in your model. The first problem arises from the arrangement of vertices. Start from there. If the vertices don't solve the problem, is the texture, right? But by primarily, it is always vertices you attack first to make sure you solve that problem. Okay? So I want you guys to draw a bottle, and I want you guys to draw a cup, a wine glass. 10 minutes. Everybody, I'm going to come and check it when you're done. I won't do it alone. So you know how a wine glass is. So draw a bottle, a wine bottle, and then a wine glass. Wine bottle, wine